Hey guys, tonight we're not so much travelling back in time as tumbling down a prescription pill bottle into the glittering, baffling world of American pain relief, Vicodin. That's right, tonight's bedtime story is less dragons and knights, more pharmacy lines, outdated doctors' offices, and suburban living rooms littered with half-full orange bottles. We'll be unwrapping the sticky history of Vicodin, from its humble birth in 1984 as a miracle for back pain, through the heady days of pain clinics, all the way to those quiet, desperate suburban evenings when one tablet turned into 10, and your neighbour's chihuahua suddenly seemed very, very judgmental. And since this is our brand new channel, before you settle in, maybe take a second to hit like and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy what you find here. Leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim those lights, turn on a fan for that soothing, white noise prescription pad sound, and curl up somewhere soft. Maybe pop a couple of ibuprofen, but, in the recommended dosage. Let's pause for a second. Have you ever wondered why every American sitcom family seems to have a bathroom cabinet full of unpronounceable pills? Was there really a golden age of pain relief? Why did doctors in the 80s prescribe Vicodin like Halloween candy? Did anyone actually read the warnings on those pharmacy printouts, or did we all just use them as impromptu bookmarks? Did your uncle really need that refill, or was he just tired of shoveling snow? And why did everyone suddenly develop chronic lower back pain right after the school district banned dodgeball? And now, congratulations, you've just woken up in a 1984 doctor's office. There's linoleum underfoot, a faint smell of menthol, and the promise of pain relief, or possibly disaster, waiting on a little white slip of paper. Good luck. The year is 1984. Shoulder pads are in, hair is feathered, and America's joints are apparently screaming for help. You, a slightly tired doctor in a beige office, are about to unwrap a brand new miracle, Vicodin. It's hydrocodone plus acetaminophen, and the marketing promises gentle, reliable relief. What could possibly go wrong? Aside from, literally everything. Let's set the scene. You're slouched behind a battered desk, the kind with a built-in cigarette burn and a squeaky drawer that only opens if you curse at it. The walls are a soothing shade of hospital grey, and somewhere down the hall a nurse is arguing with a fax machine that has eaten its own instructions. Your medical degree stares at you from a cracked frame, silently judging the number of prescription pads you've gone through this week. Patients keep coming in with the same complaints: aching backs, throbbing knees, mysterious pains from jogging exactly once after New Year's. You've seen it all, and, frankly, your empathy reserves are running as low as the break room coffee. And then, in Waltz's salvation, a pharmaceutical rep with too much cologne, a suitcase full of glossy pamphlets, and the smile of a man who's never said no to free shrimp. He presents you with a shiny sample bottle of Vicodin, promising that this little white tablet will change lives, or at the very least keep your phone from ringing at 2 a.m. with emergency refill requests. He assures you it's safe, effective, and won't cause the unpleasant drowsiness of other, less sophisticated narcotics. It's modern, it's American, and most importantly, it's FDA approved. In 1984, that still means something. You glance at the sample, feeling equal parts hope and suspicion. On the one hand, it's a real painkiller, not just another bottle of outdated aspirin gathering dust next to the tongue depressors. On the other, you've been burned before. Remember the miracle diet pill of 1976? Your patients are already asking about it thanks to a perfectly timed local news segment starring a very energetic pharmacist with excellent teeth. Let's talk about your patients. There's Bob, the car mechanic who has mysterious lower back pain every time it's time to help his brother-in-law move, Linda, the choir director, who slipped on a patch of ice but refuses to stop conducting, and then there's Mildred, who is simply 80 and, by her own account, falling apart at the molecular level. All three of them want something better than the ice pack taped to their body with scotch tape. With a flourish, you write your first Vicodin prescription. The patient beams, clutching the slip of paper like a golden ticket. The pharmacy is only too happy to oblige, and just like that, Vicodin enters the world, not with a bang, but with a cautious optimism and the promise of painless tomorrows. The pharmaceutical rep drops by again the next week, this time with branded pens, a coffee mug, and a story about how Vicodin helped his grandmother weed her entire garden in a single afternoon. He hands you a brochure showing a happy family playing frisbee, as if all it takes to overcome chronic pain is a single, perfectly measured tablet. But behind the scenes, things are already getting complicated. Doctors quietly compare notes. Does it really work that well? Any weird side effects? Some mention that their patients seem just a bit too enthusiastic for refills. Others notice that the initial euphoria doesn't always last. Sometimes it takes a higher dose to get the same result. Still, for now, it's a miracle in a bottle. The press runs cheerful articles about new hope for chronic pain. Patients report feeling better, sleeping deeper, even walking further to the mailbox. The future looks bright, or at least mildly less achy. No one is thinking about the long term. Not the doctors, not the patients, not the smiling rep with an endless supply of Vicodin branded stress balls. It's just one more small solution for a big, complicated world. You sign another prescription, hopeful, a little naive, and blissfully unaware that you may have just cracked open Pandora's pill bottle. Punchline: if you ever wondered what could go wrong, just wait until next week, when Mildred brings in cookies as a thank you, and half the office is suddenly very, very interested in pain management. Suddenly, the medical world decides pain isn't just an inconvenience, it's a metric, like blood pressure. There's a chart on the wall, ranging from happy face to weeping soul. You're told to rate your pain, but is your 6 the same as Janet's 8? The answer is no, but the prescription pad doesn't care. It's the mid-1990s. Every waiting room in America is about to get a facelift, one that's less feng shui and more emoji parade. Posters pop up next to the outdated magazines, 10 little cartoon faces, from grinning to sobbing, asking you to rate your suffering on a scale from no pain to please remove my entire body. Doctors start the day by practicing their new script. And how would you rate your pain today? It sounds simple, but the tension is thick. Nobody wants to sound like a whiner, but nobody wants to miss out on sympathy, or, let's be honest, the possibility of stronger meds. You glance at the chart. Are you a 4? Is this a 7? What if you say 10? Does that mean you get the good stuff? Or does it mean you get sent straight to the emergency room with a lecture about pain tolerance? There's no clear manual, but there is a box to tick on your file. If you pick the wrong face, you might be suffering stoically for months. Choose the crying one and, well, hope you're convincing. Welcome to America's new favourite guessing game, Rate That Pain. Behind the scenes, the medical world is in full panic. Someone, probably a committee with way too many acronyms, has declared that pain must be measured, tracked, and most importantly, eliminated. It's no longer enough for your blood pressure to be fine and your temperature normal. If you're uncomfortable, that's a medical emergency. Suddenly the phrase pain management is echoing through hospitals and clinics with all the urgency of a fire drill and the organisation of a bake sale run by raccoons. Doctors aren't sure what to do. They went to med school to fix broken bones and stitch up lacerations, not to negotiate with patients about whether their headache is a mild inconvenience or a Shakespearean tragedy. They try to be objective. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being a mosquito bite and 10 being attacked by an alligator, where are you? Patients respond with, "Is this before or after coffee?" There is, it turns out, no scientific consensus on what a pain level 5 really means. Nurses bear the brunt of the chaos. They're tasked with writing down your number every time they so much as hand you an ice pack. If you say 8, eyebrows are raised. If you say 2, you're congratulated for your bravery, possibly handed a sticker, but definitely not the good pills. The new system, intended to empower patients, quickly becomes a negotiation exercise. Some people aim high, others aim low, and some treat it like the price is right, strategically choosing 7 in the hope of landing something useful. Meanwhile, pharmaceutical companies see opportunity. Their pamphlets start boasting about superior pain control. TV ads feature smiling seniors dancing, gardening, and laughing through what is clearly meant to be excruciating agony. The message is clear. Pain is optional, and if you're still in pain, maybe you need a better prescription. Family members get involved. Your spouse leans in and suggests you ask for something stronger. Your mother on speakerphone recalls her labour pains and offers unsolicited advice about breathing techniques. Everyone has an opinion, but only one person has the prescription pad, and they're starting to get hand cramps from writing so many Vicodin refills. By the end of the decade, pain has gone from background noise to the star of the show. Hospitals track it, insurance companies measure it, and patients debate it like it's the weather. But as you'll soon learn, turning pain into a number is like trying to measure happiness with a ruler. It's subjective, inconsistent, and often leads to a lot more paperwork than anyone ever wanted. Punchline, and somewhere, quietly, that chart of smiling to sobbing faces looks on, judging everyone, reminding you that Janet's 8 is probably your 4, and neither of you are getting out of here without at least a bottle of something labelled "take as needed." Every ache, twinge, and emotional bruise gets a little white slip. Doctors, eager to help and avoid lawsuits, hand out Vicodin like office candy. You've stubbed your toe. Here's a 30-day supply. There's more trust in pharmaceutical reps than in your own knees. It's the late 80s and early 90s, and the American doctor's office is a peculiar blend of optimism, exhaustion, and the constant hum of fluorescent lights. You shuffle in, clutching your lower back or your shoulder, or just a vague sense of existential discomfort, and you're greeted by a doctor who looks almost as tired as you feel. There's a painting of a sailboat on the wall, a faint whiff of antiseptic, and a stack of prescription pads just waiting to be liberated. You sit on the crinkly paper, describe your symptoms, and wait for the verdict. In previous decades, you might have gotten advice to walk it off, or at best, a recommendation for ice and bed rest. But now, you're living in a golden age of pharmacological solutions. Why suffer? Why risk another sleepless night when you could just as easily numb every ounce of discomfort with a tiny pill? The doctor nods empathetically, but let's be honest, he's got 3 minutes to solve your problems before the next patient limps in. He glances at your chart, remembers that patient satisfaction is now the gold standard, and reaches for his pen. "We'll start you on something for the pain," he says, with the practiced confidence of a man who has been to precisely one Vicodin-sponsored lunch and learn in the past week. He scribbles out the prescription, tears it off with a flourish, and sends you on your way. If you're lucky, he'll even toss in a sample from the drawer. nestled next to a pile of pens and notepads emblazoned with the familiar Vicodin logo. Meanwhile, in the pharmaceutical world, business is booming. Reps drop by with trays of muffins and stories about miraculous recoveries. My cousin's neighbour's dog walker's aunt threw out her back last month, they say, and after 2 weeks on Vicodin she's running marathons. They hand out branded stress balls, offer to sponsor the office's next pizza party, and most importantly make sure every doctor feels like a hero for handing out relief in tablet form. Trust between doctors and reps is so high, you half expect to see them exchanging friendship bracelets behind the receptionist's desk. Patients notice. The pharmacy becomes a revolving door of grateful faces and increasingly casual conversations. "Hurt yourself again," the pharmacist jokes, sliding a bottle across the counter. "You could open a clinic with all these refills. It's almost a badge of honour. 1 part medical necessity, 2 parts social currency." Sharing painkillers at barbecues becomes as normal as sharing potato salad, and if someone says, "I've got a little something for that," you know exactly what they mean. But there's a flip side. Some doctors start to notice the lines getting longer, the requests more frequent, the symptoms suspiciously vague. Back pain, migraines, dental work, every complaint seems to warrant the same solution. There's a sense that maybe, just maybe, not all these aches are quite as severe as advertised. Still, the risk of saying no looms large. Angry patients, bad reviews, lawsuits, none of these fit easily into a 10-minute appointment. Far safer to sign the slip, smile reassuringly, and hope the problem walks out with the patient. Somewhere in the mix, the human body's incredible talent for adaptation gets overlooked. As refills roll in and doses creep upward, a subtle shift begins. What started as pain relief quietly becomes daily routine. The pill bottle, once a symbol of hope, turns into a fixture of everyday life, right next to the vitamins, the spare change, and that one expired tube of muscle rub you keep just in case. Punchline. And so you leave the office with your magic prescription, feeling cared for, empowered, and ever so slightly numb until next month when your toe hurts again, and somehow the only cure is another little white slip. You can always tell when the Vicodin guy is in the office. There's a suspicious number of branded notepads, and suddenly everyone's coffee tastes like hope and faint guilt. Pharmaceutical reps arrive with big smiles, bigger hair, and boxes of educational materials for your waiting room. Let's set the scene. It's a Tuesday morning. The rain is drizzling. Your appointment book is full, and you're already running on fumes and reheated coffee. Suddenly the mood shifts. The receptionist starts humming. The nurses perk up, and there's a whiff of expensive aftershave competing with the sharp tang of hand sanitizer. In strides a rep sporting a plaid blazer that would make the 1970s jealous, clutching a suitcase that looks heavy enough to contain secrets, cash, or possibly a small bear. He's not alone. Pharmaceutical reps travel in packs like well-groomed wolves. They bring pastries, bagels, and the kind of croissants that come in boxes too nice to throw away. Every visit feels like a small birthday party, except the candles are replaced by glossy trifold brochures and the gifts are stress balls shaped like kidneys. Sometimes you get branded mugs, sometimes you get sticky notes, but you always get pens. So many pens. At some point you wonder if they're reproducing in the supply closet. The pitch begins. "Doctor, do you have a moment?" As if you could say no. The rep's teeth sparkle with the brightness of someone who's never missed a dental cleaning or a commission check. He's here to educate you, but mostly he's here to make sure Vicodin stays top of mind and top of your prescription pad. The conversation dances between casual small talk, "How's your golf game?" and urgent reminders that patients deserve relief. He tosses out statistics, most of which sound impressive and vaguely comforting, like 97% of doctors surveyed agree, pain shouldn't slow you down. Who conducted the survey? Probably the same guy handing out the muffins. They know all your staff by name. How's your daughter's soccer team? Did the new copier finally arrive? Their ability to recall birthdays is matched only by their ability to slip a sample bottle into a white coat pocket with the smooth precision of a Las Vegas magician. And they always remember to compliment your tie, even when you're not wearing one. Soon, the waiting room is transformed. Suddenly, every magazine rack sports Vicodin, understanding pain pamphlets, each helpfully suggesting you consult your doctor, who, conveniently, just received a week's supply of sample tablets. A poster appears next to the blood pressure cuff, smiling seniors tossing frisbees, their pain a distant memory, their Vicodin use not even a footnote. The messaging is subtle. Life can be happy, and all it takes is a tiny tablet, a prescription, and a doctor who's up to date on the latest advances. The nurses get in on the action. Free coffee mugs, lunch breaks that come with catered deli platters, and the occasional raffle for a weekend getaway, courtesy of continuing education. You wonder if pharmaceutical reps have a secret handshake, or if their superpower is the ability to turn a normal Tuesday into an impromptu office party. But here's the catch. The line between education and sales pitch is about as thin as a Vicodin tablet. For every genuinely helpful article about pain management, there are 5 more pamphlets explaining why only this drug will do the trick. The reps offer reassurance, support, and just enough corporate jargon to make you forget you're being gently nudged toward a particular prescription. You start to wonder, is it really a coincidence that your Vicodin prescribing has gone up 40% since they started bringing in bagels? Still, it's hard to resist. Who doesn't want to feel like a hero, saving the day with a signature and a smile? The pens write smoothly, the mugs keep your coffee warm, and the promise of happier patients is hard to ignore. You tell yourself it's all above board, just good medicine, modern, convenience, and maybe a little bit of peer pressure in pastry form. Punchline. And so, when the Vicodin guy finally leaves, the staff waves, the fridge is a little fuller, and somewhere, deep in your pocket, there's another free pen, ready for the next prescription, and the next reminder that nothing says progress like an office supply closet full of hope, branded notepads, and just the tiniest bit of guilt. Congratulations, you live in a ranch-style house and have just thrown out your back rearranging the garage. Your doctor says take 2 Vicodin and call me in the morning. The American dream now includes a side of prescription painkillers. Let's paint the picture. It's a sunny Saturday in mid-90s Suburbia. Lawns are freshly mown, the neighbours' wind chimes are clanging out of tune, and you, the proud owner of a weed whacker and 17 half-used cans of paint, are determined to finally organise the garage. This is the day you promise yourself that everything will be put in its rightful place. The mystery extension cords, the kids' bikes, and whatever lurks behind that stack of dusty moving boxes labelled miscellaneous in your spouse's handwriting. You hoist, you heave, you ignore the gentle warnings from your lower vertebrae until suddenly, with a sharp twinge, your spine files a formal complaint. You drop the toolbox, utter a phrase that's not fit for children's ears, and spend the next 10 minutes doing an interpretive dance called trying to stand up without crying. Your American dream just developed a slight limp. Enter the Suburban healthcare system, efficient, familiar, and now heavily sponsored by pharmaceutical companies. You call your doctor, who fits you in between Nancy's sinus infection and Steve's questionable mole. The office smells like hand sanitizer and optimism. You fill out a clipboard's worth of paperwork for the 15th time, nobody's sure why, and limp back to an exam room wallpapered in educational. posters about healthy living and suspiciously the benefits of managing pain. Your doctor arrives, glances at your chart and listens to your tale of garage-related woe. There's a quick poke here, a gentle prod there, and a moment where you lock eyes, both knowing full well that rest and ice just isn't going to cut it. With a flourish, your doctor reaches for the prescription pad. "Let's get you something to help with the pain," they say, scribbling out a prescription for Vicodin with the kind of confidence usually reserved for game show hosts and weather forecasters. You leave the office clutching your prize, a white slip of paper that holds the promise of a pain-free tomorrow, or at least a less painful trip back to the car. The pharmacist greets you like an old friend. She slides your bottle across the counter with a knowing look. You pay your copay, tuck your pills next to the bag of potting soil in the passenger seat, and wonder if this is what your ancestors had in mind when they dreamed of a better life. Back home, you follow instructions. Take 2 Vicodin and call if things get worse. The pain softens. You marvel at how modern medicine can take a day that began with garage chaos and end it with you blissfully horizontal on the couch, half watching a home improvement show where nobody ever throws out their back. The world seems a little softer, your problems a little smaller, and your garage, well, still a mess. But that's a problem for another day. Soon you notice something curious. The pill bottle migrates to the kitchen cabinet right between the vitamins and the cinnamon. It becomes a household staple, a secret handshake among parents at the PTA meeting, a silent reassurance every time you walk by, and the dull ache in your back whispers hello. Even the dog seems to give the bottle a respectful nod, as if understanding that the good stuff now lives among the granola bars and allergy meds. You don't talk about it much. Maybe you joke I'm getting old, or guess I'm not 20 anymore. But the truth is, Vicodin has woven itself into the fabric of daily life. It's as suburban as backyard barbecues and 4th of July parades. You realise, not without irony, that the American dream once promised 2 cars, a house, and a better future. Now it comes with a prescription warning label and the faint hope that next time you'll just hire movers. Punchline. And as you drift off to sleep, lulled by a mix of pain relief and suburban contentment, you promise yourself you'll tackle that garage again next weekend. Maybe, if your back allows, and the pharmacy's still open. Somewhere in the late 80s, you start noticing everyone's bathroom cabinet looks like a pharmacy clearance sale. Grandma's got codeine, Dad's got Vicodin, and the dog probably has his own prescription for anxiety. You wonder, will there be enough shelf space for toothpaste? It begins innocently enough. Maybe you remember a time when the medicine cabinet held nothing more than a bottle of generic aspirin, a box of bandages, and the mysterious vapor rub nobody was ever brave enough to actually use. But gradually, shelf by shelf, your once humble cabinet is overtaken. It starts with a prescription for antibiotics, then a muscle relaxant for Dad's old football injury. Read, he sneezed too hard one autumn morning, and then a bottle of Vicodin, just in case anyone dares rearrange the living room furniture again. Now it's a full-blown pharmaceutical arms race. Open the mirrored door and you're greeted by an avalanche of bottles, each promising to cure, soothe, or at least gently sedate. Childproof caps, colour-coded warning labels, and that crinkly little pamphlet you toss aside because who has time to read about potential interactions with grapefruit juice? The shelf for emergencies has become the shelf for its Thursday. Grandma, once a champion of rub some dirt on it, now has a personalised pill sorter the size of a waffle iron. She doles out codeine for her aches, a muscle relaxant for her weekly bridge night, and something for nerves that's probably older than you are. Your dad, meanwhile, has developed an impressive collection of pill bottles, each labelled with a condition more vague than the last. Take as needed, one says. Needed for what? Lawn care? Political debates? The dog, not to be outdone, comes home from the vet with his own prescription for separation anxiety, the label reads, but everyone suspects it's actually just so he can sleep through the mailman's daily offensive. You try to find the toothpaste. It's wedged between an oversized bottle of calcium supplements and something called nighttime pain formula, which, if the label is to be believed, can also strip paint and remove carpet stains. You wonder if there should be a waiting list to store your deodorant, or if the vitamins should just surrender and move to the kitchen. It doesn't end there. At dinner parties, people compare their prescriptions like baseball cards. You're on the blue pills. I heard the white ones work better, but only if you wash them down with prune juice. There's always one aunt who swears by her natural remedy, which, spoiler alert, is just Vicodin with a chamomile tea chaser. Kids learn early. Don't touch anything behind the mirror unless you want to be up all night or asleep for a week. Even the neighbour brags about his exclusive arthritis gel, which sounds suspiciously like over-the-counter menthol with the designer label. Pharmaceutical reps see an opportunity and double down, flooding the house with branded magnets, pill splitters, and tiny sample packs. The doctor's office calls to remind you that you're due for a checkup, which now means a blood test, a blood pressure reading, and a friendly chat about managing your pain in a modern world. You nod along, mentally adding another bottle to the shelf. The result? The medicine cabinet becomes a family history in pill form. The ache in your shoulder, your brother's migraines, grandma's knees, dad's mysterious sinus thing, and the dog's existential dread, all catalogued in plastic. Sometimes you stand in front of the mirror, staring at the rows of bottles, and wonder how it all started. Wasn't it just supposed to be for emergencies? How did it turn into a daily arms race against minor aches, imagined ailments, and the slow encroachment of time? Punchline, and as you squeeze the toothpaste back into its tiny corner, you can't help but think, maybe one day, the family that medicates together will finally make enough room for a single stick of floss, but not today. Today, the cabinet is full, the pill sorter is locked and loaded, and your morning routine includes a brief inventory of everything that hurts, creaks, or wags its tail with prescription-strength relief. You're at a parent-teacher association meeting, but half the parents are speaking in code about bad backs and migraines. Are they comparing children or copays? You're not sure, but someone's passing around a bottle under the table, and it's not for headaches. Welcome to the jungle gym of adulthood, where the wildest animals are the parents, and the most traded commodity isn't fundraising ideas, but prescription medication. You sit in a circle of metal folding chairs, each one designed by someone who hated comfort, watching as the principal tries to wrangle order from chaos. There's an agenda taped to the wall, but nobody's really here to discuss playground mulch or field trip policies. The real business is happening in whispers and side eyes, a low murmur of code words and knowing nods. Had to sleep on the couch again, says Greg, rubbing his lower back with the world-weary expertise of someone who has spent more money on chiropractors than on birthday presents. Should have taken the blue ones last night. Across the table, a mum in a turtleneck replies, "My migraines are back, but insurance only. Covers half the prescription now. No one bats an eye." These are not medical overshares. These are invitations, openings to a secret club where everyone's pain is both a story and a password. The bottle moves quietly, a tiny orange beacon of solidarity. It's not for show and tell, it's for show and swallow. Just in case, someone whispers. For emergencies, says another. It lands next to the stack of gluten-free cookies and a Tupperware of grapes no child will ever eat. You can't tell if they're discussing the school fundraiser or the latest insurance denial, but everyone seems to understand the rules. Don't ask too many questions. Don't draw attention. If you know, you know. Meanwhile, the teachers sit at a polite distance, sipping decaf coffee and pretending not to notice. They've learned the art of selective hearing. Once, a brave young English teacher asked, "Is there a list of approved snacks for meetings?" and was met with 20 suspicious glares and a full recounting of last year's bake sale injuries. She doesn't ask anymore. She grades essays and hopes the kids have better luck with their parents than she does with run-on sentences. Back at your table, the conversation shifts seamlessly from medication to after-school activities. "Little Joey has soccer practice, so I'll need something for my knees," one dad muses. "But if he has another meltdown in the minivan, I might need something for nerves." Laughter ripples around the room, equal parts real amusement and desperate self-care. Someone mentions a neighbour who knows a guy, and suddenly 3 parents are comparing notes on pharmacies, co-pays, and which urgent care has the best parking. It's a blend of medical advice and local gossip, all delivered with the subtlety of a spy ring and the urgency of a flash sale at the local big-box pharmacy. Your phone buzzes, a reminder for your next dental appointment. You make a mental note to ask about muscle relaxants just in case. It's hard to know where the line is anymore. Are you part of the problem, or just keeping up with the neighbourhood standard? The truth is, nobody really talks about the risks, the side effects, or how strange it is that everyone's medicine cabinet is fuller than their fridge. If you mention concern, someone pats your arm and offers you a mint or something stronger, depending on the day. Punchline. By the end of the meeting, the playground still needs new swings, the bake sale needs volunteers, and you're heading home with a sign-up sheet, 6 pain relief tips, and the comforting knowledge that in this little corner of Suburbia, the PTA isn't just about parent-teacher partnerships. It's about solidarity and suffering, co-pays, and the unspoken agreement that sometimes it really does take a village, especially when nobody can remember where they left their pills. Nothing says celebrity quite like a high-profile rehab visit. Suddenly every tabloid has a headline about a sitcom star's struggle with painkillers. You realise your own problems feel slightly more glamorous, until you remember you're not actually famous. It's the late 90s and early 2000s, and America's favourite pastime isn't baseball anymore. It's following the downfall and redemption arc of every TV actor with a recognisable laugh track. You're waiting in the grocery store checkout line, eyeing a stack of glossy magazines. "Vicodin ruined my life," screams the headline, next to a photo of someone who, until last year, was teaching the world how to fold fitted sheets on daytime television. There's something reassuring about seeing celebrities with problems just like yours, only with more expensive lawyers and suspiciously good hair. Their pain is bigger, their rehab facilities have infinity pools, and when they apologise to the public, it's through a representative instead of awkward small talk in the break room. The nightly news features dramatic slow-mo, shots of limousines outside exclusive clinics, which, judging by the palm trees and valet parking, seem more like resorts than recovery centres. You watch from your couch, maybe holding your own little orange bottle, the label peeled halfway off, just in case someone looks too closely. If a famous person can admit it, maybe it's not so bad, you think, feeling strangely validated as a parade of former child stars and retired athletes walk the red carpet of daytime talk shows to discuss their journey with prescription painkillers. Suddenly pain management is more than a euphemism. It's an entire episode arc. Your favourite sitcom takes a very special episode detour. The goofy sidekick, once the king of pratfalls, now sits solemnly under a single spotlight, explaining to the studio audience that sometimes pain pills aren't the answer. The canned laughter is muted. The studio audience is respectfully silent. Your own living room for a fleeting moment feels like a confessional. Meanwhile, magazine articles offer helpful advice. 10 signs you might have a problem sandwiched between recipes for 7-layer dip and ads for headache medicine. Dr. Phil, Oprah, and a rotating cast of addiction experts debate the perils of doctor shopping and pill mills. The message is always the same: you're not alone. But also, please see your healthcare provider, and don't forget to watch next Thursday's dramatic intervention. The real impact, though, is in the way conversations change. Suddenly, it's not shameful to mention that you needed a little help after the surgery. Your neighbour, who once pretended her back brace was just a quirky fashion accessory, casually admits she's cut back. Thanks for asking. The PTA meeting includes a sidebar about resources, and even your dentist slides a pamphlet across the counter just in case. You're not immune to a little self-delusion. You imagine giving your own press conference, maybe in your bathrobe, with a ring light and a plate of store-brand cookies, tearfully admitting that yes, you too once renewed a prescription before the bottle was empty. You picture the applause, the hashtags, the heartfelt public forgiveness. Instead, you settle for deleting an email reminder from your pharmacy and vowing to try yoga someday. The truth is, most of us will never have our recovery stories turned into miniseries. There are no TV movies about your missed refill or your decision to skip the next pill, but as you watch yet another famous face make the morning news rounds, you realize that celebrity struggles are just highly produced versions of the same quiet messiness that's happening in every suburban kitchen, workplace, and, yes, medicine cabinet. Punchline. And so, while Hollywood's finest get their glossy magazine covers and dramatic music cues, the rest of us make do with a good night's sleep, a little less shame, and the hope that if life ever gets truly overwhelming, at least the neighbour's not selling your story to TMZ. It's the 90s. Pain clinics spring up faster than Starbucks. You can get a pumpkin spice latte and a bottle of Vicodin in the same strip mall. The waiting room is full of people who all claim to have just thrown out their back. This is the golden era of convenience. America's love affair with the drive-thru has gone from fast food to fast medicine. If you listen closely, you can hear the sound of a fax machine struggling to keep up, phones ringing off the hook, and somewhere, a pharmaceutical rep passing out pain management stress balls in between catered lunches. The neon open sign flickers in the window, a beacon for every aching joint and imaginary golf injury within a 10-mile radius. Step inside, and you'll see an array of mismatched chairs, the kind with cracked vinyl and questionable stains, crowded around a coffee table holding a year's worth of highlights magazines and pamphlets titled Understanding Your Pain. The television in the corner loops a video about posture and ergonomic lifting, which no one is watching because everyone's eyes are glued to the front desk, mentally rehearsing their best limp. Pain clinics are equal parts doctor's office, community theatre, and low-budget game show. The check-in process is a ritual. You fill out forms describing your pain in alarming detail. Please shade the areas of discomfort on this diagram. You colour the whole body for good measure, just to be safe. The receptionist doesn't blink. She's heard it all: sciatica, tennis elbow, mysterious recurring pain that only happens on Wednesdays. Everyone in the waiting room nods knowingly. There's a camaraderie, a subtle sense that you're all in this together, if only to make sure nobody leaves empty-handed. When your name is called, you follow a well-trodden path to an exam room decorated with faded posters of smiling people and a plastic model of the human spine that's missing a lumbar disc. The doctor enters, white coat fluttering, prescription pad at the ready. You describe your pain, vague, persistent, life-altering. The doctor listens sympathetically, asks a few gentle questions, then scribbles out a prescription with the practiced ease of someone who could write Vicodin in their sleep. You leave with a prescription and a sense of accomplishment, as if you've just leveled up in a video game called Managing Discomfort, Adult Edition. The pharmacy next door is happy to oblige, and you realize you've completed the entire errand without ever leaving the strip mall. You reward yourself with a drive-through coffee and the knowledge that, for at least a few days, your pain is someone else's problem, preferably the manufacturer's. Outside, the clinic's parking lot is a microcosm of modern medicine. You see people doing the slow shuffle back to their minivans, clutching paper bags full of hope and acetaminophen. The clinics advertise compassionate care and same-day appointments. Some even offer punch cards. Buy 5 visits, get the 6th ice pack free. It's healthcare with a side of customer loyalty. But beneath the buzz of convenience, cracks begin to show. Stories circulate of clinics with pain in the name and little else, barely more than a rented office and a supply of sample packs. Rumours of pill mills and doctors who hand out scripts like candy mix with local legends about people driving in from 3 towns over just for a refill. Regulators start to pay attention, insurance companies start asking questions, and suddenly, not every limp is taken at face value. Still, for a time, pain clinics become as much a part of suburban life as grocery stores and Sunday soccer games. You know you've really made it in America when your neighborhood boasts a dry cleaner, a pet groomer, and a walk-in pain clinic all in the same shopping plaza. Punchline. And so, you sip your latte, pocket your prescription, and tell yourself you'll try stretching next time, but deep down, you know the drive-thru is always waiting just in case your back goes out again before the next pumpkin spice season. At first, Vicodin is a blessing. You can garden, lift groceries, and even dance at a wedding again. But then the dose doesn't work as well. You take another and another. Relief turns into a routine, and soon you can't remember if you have pain or just need the pill. The transformation is subtle, almost polite. At first, every pill is an event, an act of hope wrapped in a crinkly foil packet. Your aches melt away, replaced by the gentle hum of comfort. You tackle the world one grocery bag at a time, feeling like you've finally regained control. This is what modern medicine is for, you tell yourself, tossing weeds and bending to tie your shoes like you're starring in a commercial for life's second act. It's easy, almost too easy. The bottle lives in your bathroom cabinet, nestled among vitamins, cough drops, and that ancient jar of vapor rub. The first, refill, is a non-event. The second is a thoughtful precaution. By the third, you know the pharmacist's schedule, and you've learned which lines move the fastest. Pain relief, once a rare treat, becomes another task on the to-do list, right after pick up milk and water the plants. The trouble is your body's a fast learner. What started as a single magical tablet soon requires 2 for the same effect. The ache in your back fades, but not as quickly. Your knees grumble when you skip a dose. You start timing your day around the next moment of relief, counting hours like a child waiting for recess. Your doctor mentions tolerance, but the word floats by, lost in the haze of calendars, appointments, and friendly reminders not to exceed the prescribed dosage. Your family notices small changes. You're a little quicker to snap, a little slower to laugh. Dinner conversations drift from school projects to when did you last take your pill, and back again. You reassure them, and yourself, that everything's fine, it's just a busy week. You're managing. Besides, the pain was so much worse before. Why would you ever go back? Meanwhile, life quietly rearranges itself around your new normal. Travel plans hinge on having enough medication to last the trip. Social events are measured in hours between doses. You eye your dwindling supply with a caution that borders on reverence. You keep spare pills in your bag, your car, your coat pocket, just in case. The fear of running out is almost as sharp as the original pain itself. You start to wonder, was the pain ever this bad? Or have you just forgotten what normal felt like? You search your memory for a day without aches, a night without checking the clock for the next dose. The line between relief and routine blurs, and soon you can't tell if you're treating pain or just avoiding discomfort, physical, emotional, existential, take your pick. You promise yourself this is temporary. Just until things calm down, you say, ignoring the fact that life rarely obliges. Your doctor suggests tapering off, trying alternatives, maybe even seeing a specialist. You nod politely and change the subject. After all, nobody wants to be the problem patient, especially not you, with your colour-coded pill sorter and carefully managed life. There are moments of clarity, a wedding dance, a walk in the park, when you remember what you're fighting for. But there are just as many nights spent staring at the ceiling, wondering how you ended up here, balanced on the thin edge between relief and dependence. Punchline. In the end, Vicodin is both sword and shield. It gives you back the life you missed and quietly asks for a piece of it in return. The blessing is real, but so is the bargain, written not in warning labels, but in the slow, steady rhythm of a routine you never meant to start. One day, you realize your neighbor is unusually friendly. Turns out, there's a robust trade system operating behind every cul-de-sac. Your expired Vicodin is worth 2 allergy tablets and a ride to the grocery store. It starts with a casual conversation over the fence. You're both watering your lawns, pretending not to care about who has more dandelions, when suddenly your neighbor leans in. "Hey, you wouldn't happen to have any muscle relaxers left from when you hurt your back, would you?" It's said with a chuckle, as if this is all a joke, but the look in their eye says otherwise. Suburbia, it turns out, runs on more than lawn fertilizer and block parties. What you've stumbled upon is an unspoken, unofficial barter system. Forget stocks and bonds. Here, the real economy is fueled by forgotten pill bottles and just-in-case prescriptions. Allergy season hits hard, and suddenly the mum down the street is swapping her son's extra antihistamines for a few of your old painkillers. Someone's got an uncle who works at a pharmacy, and someone else knows a guy who gets samples. Nobody asks too many questions. The exchanges are subtle. Pills change hands at book clubs, under the table at potlucks, or slip discreetly into a napkin during PTA meetings. There are always plausible deniability and plenty of euphemisms. Little helpers, something for the road, a sleep aid. A bottle of expired Vicodin is traded for 2 nights of uninterrupted sleep and a promise to watch the neighbour's dog next weekend. If you think you're the only one doing this, you're not. Every block has a self-appointed pharmacy captain, the person who knows who needs what, who's got extra, and how to make sure it all stays just this side of respectable. Of course, no one calls it what it is. It's not drug dealing, it's sharing. You're just helping a friend. Besides, what harm could come from passing along a few tablets that the doctor said you didn't need anymore? If you've got leftovers and someone else is suffering, it almost feels like a public service. The line between kindness and sketchiness is as blurry as the expiration dates on most of these bottles. The negotiations are pure Suburbia. 1 bottle of muscle relaxants for a week of carpool duty. 3 ibuprofen with codeine for a tray of gluten-free brownies. It's like a pharmaceutical version of Monopoly, but everyone's cheating and the banker lives across the street. The stakes are low until, of course, they aren't. You wonder, just briefly, what would happen if anyone found out. But then you remember, The HOA once spent 3 months arguing about mailbox colours. If there's a Suburban SWAT team for pill swapping, they probably haven't been invented yet. You become an expert in discretion. The bottles are hidden in old vitamin containers, tucked behind the cornmeal in the pantry, or slipped into Ziploc bags marked herbal supplements. You start making lists, not just for groceries, but for who owes what and who still needs that refill on allergy meds. You find yourself eyeing the medicine cabinet with the new appreciation for its untapped market value. All the while, you tell yourself this is temporary, just until allergy season is over, just until the next surgery or the next stress-induced headache epidemic sweeps through the neighborhood. But deep down, you know this is just how things work now. A modern, suburban adaptation to a world where everyone hurts and everyone helps, and the line between the two gets fainter every year. Punchline. And so, the next time your neighbour smiles a little too brightly and asks how your back is doing, you know what they really mean. In Suburbia's silent economy, a bottle of expired Vicodin is worth more than gold, especially if you throw in a ride to Costco. Pharmacists, those gatekeepers in white coats, start getting suspicious. You approach the counter with your 3rd refill this month. They ask, "Are you sure your back is still hurting?" You nod, but inside you're just trying to avoid small talk. There's a particular chill in the air at the pharmacy counter, a mix of overpowered air conditioning, hand sanitizer, and silent judgment. You shuffle forward, clutching your prescription, pretending to examine the rack of holiday-themed breath mints while the line inches along. When it's finally your turn, the pharmacist looks up from the computer, glasses perched at the end of their nose, and fixes you with a gaze that's equal parts concern and professional skepticism. "Good to see you again," they say, in the tone of someone who is in fact not that excited to see you again. The transaction begins. You hand over your prescription, careful not to make too much eye contact. You try to look casual, as if you're just picking up toothpaste or a magazine, but you know you're about as subtle as a giraffe at a tea party. The pharmacist begins their ritual. Fingers fly across the keyboard with the precision of a seasoned pianist. There's a pause, a slight frown, and then the question, "You're refilling this a little early, aren't you?" You launch into your prepared speech about travel plans and misplaced pills, but you both know what's really going on here. You hope your poker face is better than your last attempt at pretending you like decaf coffee. The truth is, pharmacists have seen it all. They can spot a bad back from a mile away, and their sixth sense for sketchy refill stories is sharper than a barcode scanner. They remember faces, stories, even the way you nervously tap your credit card on the counter. They're the unsung detectives of Suburbia, connecting dots between overlapping prescriptions and frequent flyers who cycle through every urgent care in a 20-mile radius. They're trained to spot patterns, and at this point, you're basically a connect-the-dots activity in their afternoon. You try to change the subject. "How about this weather?" you offer, as the pharmacist counts pills with a slow, deliberate precision usually reserved for bomb defusal. "Did you see they moved the toothpaste again?" It's no use. The eyebrow remains arched, a silent warning that you're treading on thin ice, or at least thin professional patience. Sometimes they offer advice veiled in concern. "Have you thought about physical therapy? Maybe alternate with ibuprofen?" You nod, taking mental notes for next time. Other times they just hand over the bag and say, "Let us know if you have any questions," in a way that makes it clear they have several, but none they're allowed to ask. You make a quick exit, clutching the plain white bag as if it contains state secrets, dodging the wellness supplement display on your way out. At home, you wonder how it came to this. plotting your pharmacy visits like a bank heist, rehearsing alibis, and calculating just how concerned you need to look without appearing guilty. Your friends swap stories about which pharmacists are cool and which ones call the doctor for everything. It's a game of cat and mouse, except the cat has access to your medical history and the mouse just wants to make it through the checkout line without a lecture. Still, you can't help but respect the pharmacist. They're the last line of defense between you and your impulse to take just one more pill for that persistent, mysterious ache. They see everyone at their most vulnerable, runny noses, sore backs, worried faces, and still manage to keep things moving. Their raised eyebrow is not just suspicion, it's a reminder that someone somewhere is still paying attention. Punchline. So next time the pharmacist asks if your back still hurts, you nod, mumble something about yard work, and leave with your prescription, hoping that a little humility and maybe a gift card at Christmas will keep the eyebrow from climbing any higher. You learn quickly that different doctors have different thresholds for sympathy and for writing scripts. Suddenly you've become an amateur actor, perfecting your limp and inventing new, plausible-sounding injuries. At first, you're bashful. You worry about sounding too dramatic, so you just stick to the classics. My back's been acting up, or I slipped getting out of the shower. But the pain is real, or at least it feels real by the time you finally get a moment alone in the exam room. The first doctor is cautious but kind. He asks about your pain, runs a gentle hand down your spine, and writes you a prescription with a sigh and a reminder to try stretching. You thank him and vow to actually do yoga, at least once. But then you notice something. Not all doctors are created equal. The urgent care on Maple Avenue is stingy with the painkillers, but the walk-in clinic by the mall, they'll give you a script if you mention radiating pain and trouble sleeping. You develop a mental map of the medical landscape, a sort of GPS for sympathy and speedy refills. You keep track of the best times to call, which days the nice doctors are on shift, and which ones ask too many questions about your previous history of medication. Soon, you're rehearsing in the car. Maybe you throw in a limp, subtle at first, but with just enough commitment to win an Oscar for Best Performance in a minor role at the family medicine clinic. You practice wincing at the right moments, clutching your side as you describe a rogue wave of pain that hits every time you attempt basic tasks. Lifting groceries, you say, or playing with the grandkids. There's no end to the everyday hazards that could, hypothetically, be causing this agony. Your stories evolve. At first, it's, I hurt my back in the garden. Next, it's old high school football injury flaring up again. If you're feeling especially creative, you try fell off a ladder cleaning the gutters, which sounds both dangerous and responsible. You hope the doctor is picturing you bravely fighting the elements, not just fighting to stay awake through another PTA meeting. Sometimes, when desperation peaks, you find yourself on Google searching for injuries people believe but never check. You keep a running list in your head. Sprained ankle, slipped disc, pinched nerve, muscle spasm, mysterious knee pain. You learn which phrases open doors and which close them. Too vague, and the doctor suggests Tylenol. Too dramatic, and you're sent for an MRI you can't afford. The sweet spot is something that sounds real but isn't easily disproved, a Goldilocks injury, just right for the prescription pad. You become a connoisseur of waiting rooms. Some are serene, with calming art and spa music. Others are battlegrounds, filled with parents wrangling toddlers and elderly men loudly describing their medical history to anyone within earshot. You learn to blend in, make small talk, read outdated magazines, and wait for your cue. Occasionally you feel a pang of guilt, especially when you see people limping for real, or you overhear someone describing a surgery scar with the gravity of a war wound. But then your name is called, and you slip into character, the long-suffering patient desperate for relief, grateful for any help. The pharmacy techs start to recognize you. You deflect questions with a joke. Should have been more careful climbing that mountain of laundry. They chuckle, but you both know you've never climbed anything more treacherous than a step stool. Punchline. Eventually you start to lose track. Was it your right knee or your left this time? Did you say you tripped over the cat or the garden hose? The performance is never perfect, but the show must go on. After all, in the world of doctor shopping, every ache is an audition, and every refill a standing ovation until the script finally runs out. Your family gathers in the living room with juice boxes and grave expressions. It's an intervention, but with more snacks than therapy. Everyone's worried about your usage, except Uncle Bill, who's quietly eyeing your leftover pills. It starts with an innocent-sounding text. Hey, we're having a little get-together Sunday after lunch. There's a potluck sign up and someone promises to bring the good hummus. You think nothing of it after all. This is a family that's held interventions for everything from loud chewing to losing at board games. But as soon as you step into the living room and spot the careful arrangement of folding chairs in a circle, you know something's up. The room smells like a combination of meatballs, cheese cubes, and anticipation. Your sister stands by the window wringing her hands. Your mother is over-fluffing the throw pillows. Even the dog looks nervous, parked beneath the coffee table, eyeing the bowl of pretzels like it might hold the answer to everything. You notice, with vague dread, that someone has put out extra tissues. This isn't your average family meeting. You try to lighten the mood, grabbing a juice box and cracking a joke about rehab chic, but nobody laughs. Your father clears his throat. The silence stretches. Finally, someone hands you an index card with your name on it, like you're at a very strange game show. We're here because we care about you, your sister says, reading from her card and blinking hard. And because we've noticed some patterns. She avoids making eye contact with Uncle Bill, who is already sidling up to the snack table, casually palming a few cookies as cover. One by one, your family members take turns sharing their concerns. Your aunt references an article she read in Reader's Digest about the opioid crisis. Your cousin, who once failed out of massage therapy school, offers to demonstrate alternative pain relief techniques. Your mother brings up your high school report card for reasons that are unclear but emotionally loaded. The snacks keep coming. Someone hands you a plate of cheese and crackers for strength. Your family's collective coping mechanism is to overfeed you. Every time the conversation gets heavy, another tray of brownies or pigs in a blanket appears. You wonder if this is how every family in America copes with crisis, through carbs and forced vulnerability. Then comes the showstopper, your dad, clutching a juice box with white knuckles, gently asks, "Is it really that bad?" The room leans in. Uncle Bill leans closer to the pill bottle. You're trapped between a plate of celery sticks and a pile of emotions. You try to explain. You talk about pain, about how the world feels sharper when the pills run out. You talk about the slow drift from relief to routine. You mention the times you tried to stop, the sleepless nights, the ache that always comes back. You watch their faces, some sad, some worried, some, like Uncle Bill, quietly calculating how many pills you might have left. A brief debate breaks out about solutions. Your cousin suggests yoga. Your mum wants you to see Dr. Patel, who fixed her bunions. Uncle Bill volunteers to help clear out the medicine cabinet so you're not tempted. The dog sneezes, and for a moment everyone is distracted. The meeting ends with group hugs, more snacks, and a vague plan for you to look into counselling. The pill bottle is discreetly relocated to a high cabinet, except you're the only one with the step stool. Uncle Bill eyes you, then the cupboard, then sighs and settles for another cookie. Punchline. You leave the meeting full of carbs and mixed emotions, with the promise of support and a secret mental note to hide your next refill somewhere nobody will think to look. Because in this family, you may be the problem, but at least you're never hungry. Dry mouth, constipation, and denial. The warning labels mention drowsiness, but no one mentions how easy it is to rationalize just one more dose. You assure everyone it's under control. The fact that you're hiding pills in a sock drawer is apparently unrelated. Let's be honest. Denial is the most seductive side effect of them all. It tiptoes in quietly, disguised as responsibility. You tell yourself you're just being organized, storing an extra bottle in your glove compartment, a couple more in your gym bag just in case. You keep them separate from your regular medicine because you're definitely not dependent. You're just planning ahead. You rehearse explanations in your head. I like to keep my options open, or it's allergy season. You never know. Your bathroom mirror becomes a confidant. Each morning, you look yourself in the eye and recite the new mantra, I've got this under control. You don't count pills, you inventory. You don't sneak doses, you adjust your routine. If you finish the bottle a little faster than last time, well, that's probably just poor record keeping. Who really has time to read the tiny print on those warning labels anyway? Friends and family start to notice small changes. You're a little more defensive, a little less available for brunch. When someone jokes about popping pills, you laugh along, too loudly, too quickly. You develop a new set of hobbies, calculating, pharmacy hours, memorizing refill policies, and learning which drive-through window moves fastest at rush hour. You tell yourself everyone does this. You're just being efficient. There's always a perfectly logical reason for another dose. It's been a stressful week. The weather changed. I'm just making sure I don't hurt myself during yoga. Eventually it's, I can't sleep unless I take one, or I can't work without it, or, most honest of all, I just don't want to feel like this right now. You craft tiny bargains with yourself. Just today, just until this project is done, just until the pain lets up. The finish line is always just out of reach. The internet is both friend and accomplice. Late at night, you search for signs of addiction, reassuring yourself when you don't match every single symptom. You skip the articles that hit too close to home. Instead, you focus on chat forums where strangers post things like, I've been taking twice the dose for years, and I'm fine. You take comfort in numbers, in stories that sound worse than yours, in the idea that you're not the only one whose sock drawer is now a mini pharmacy. The ultimate magic trick of denial is turning concern into annoyance. When your partner asks, are you taking more than you should? You bristle. You don't understand pain. My doctor said it's fine. When your doctor frowns at your refill schedule, you start looking for a new doctor, one who isn't so suspicious, one who listens, one who writes quickly and doesn't ask about sock drawers. You convince yourself you're still in control, even when control means counting pills in the dark, rationing doses before a holiday, or sneaking an extra one just this once. You ignore the moments when you panic over an empty bottle, or when you catch yourself lying about how many you've taken. You tell yourself you could stop any time you want. You just don't want to, yet. Punchline. And so, you pour yourself another glass of water, tuck the bottle back into its hiding place and promise again that tomorrow you'll cut back. Maybe next week. Maybe after the pain is gone, or the stress lets up, or the world finally makes sense. Until then, you're doing just fine. After all, it's under control. It's the early 2000s. The DEA arrives at the pain clinic with more acronyms than sense. Suddenly everyone's chronic pain is up for debate, and doctors start sweating during lunch breaks. The waiting room is now filled with nervous silence and outdated magazines. It happens with all the drama of a reality show cliffhanger. One day you're breezing through your refill routine, check in, sign the clipboard, ignore the plastic plant in the corner, and smile at the receptionist who calls you Hon. The next, there are 3 people in dark suits asking pointed questions and writing in notepads, and the nurse suddenly can't find your chart. You clutch your paperwork and look around at the other patients. Everyone is doing the same thing, trying to look like the right kind of sick. Pain clinics that once buzzed with small talk and the gentle hum of pharmacy label printers are suddenly on lockdown. A nervous energy spreads through the waiting room, thick as menthol ointment. You notice that people aren't making eye contact, as if avoiding the gaze of the DEA might make them invisible. Even the candy bowl is suspiciously empty. The magazines, already a decade old, seem more bleak than usual. Better Homes and Gardens, Field and Stream, and a copy of Time featuring the Y2K scare. The only thing scarier than Y2K. The idea that today you might leave without your pills. Doctors, once breezy and sympathetic, now speak in clipped sentences. Their hands tremble slightly as they type notes into the computer. They ask follow-up questions. How would you rate your pain? Can you show me exactly where it hurts? Have you tried anything besides medication? Suddenly your limp has to match your chart. Your story has to be airtight, and your MRI results, if you have them, are as valuable as gold. Staff meetings become tense affairs. No more free bagels from pharmaceutical reps, just lots of awkward silences and nervous glances at the calendar. The phrase regulatory compliance is muttered like a curse word. Even the office manager, whose greatest previous challenge was organising potlucks, now has to learn what chain of custody means. The real shock is how quickly suspicion spreads. Patients eye each other in the waiting room, silently ranking who looks legit and who might be the reason the DEA is here. There's a new hierarchy: bad backs versus mystery headaches, orthopedic boots versus unexplained grimaces. You realise you're all auditioning for the role of most deserving of a refill, and the prize is a bottle with your name on it. Some people try to lighten the mood with jokes. "I hope they don't make me pee in a cup," someone whispers, but nobody laughs. The days of friendly banter are over. Now everyone's in survival mode, wondering if their next refill will be the last. As for the doctors, they start saying no. Not just maybe later, but flat out. "I'm sorry, I can't write that prescription." Some patients yell, some plead, some just sigh and quietly leave, already calculating which other clinic might still be open, which doctor might still believe their story. You try not to panic. You remind yourself you're not that kind of patient. But suddenly, everyone is that kind of patient. The only difference is who gets caught first. Punchline. By the time you finally get called back, the clinic feels less like a place of healing and more like an airport security line. Nobody's sure what's allowed. Everyone's terrified of losing something important, and the only thing more outdated than the magazines is the idea that relief is just a prescription away. When Vicodin stops working, doctors start suggesting new alternatives: oxycodone, fentanyl, patches, and the mysterious non-narcotic options. You wonder if modern medicine is just a high-stakes game of musical chairs. It begins, as all great transitions do, with an awkward conversation in the exam room. You're perched on the crunchy paper, explaining that the pills just aren't doing the trick anymore. Your doctor nods gravely, scribbling on your chart. You hope for concern or maybe sympathy, but what you get is the faint look of someone scrolling through a mental Rolodex of pharmaceutical options, trying to remember which samples the rep dropped off last week. First up is oxycodone, a name that sounds both more scientific and more dangerous than anything you've taken before. It's a little stronger, your doctor says, in the tone you'd use to offer someone a hotter salsa. You nod, feeling both excited and slightly terrified. The prescription comes with a warning speech about side effects, safe storage, and, crucially, not sharing with friends and neighbours. You wonder if you should sign a waiver or just promise not to host any pill-swapping parties. If oxycodone fails to impress, the doctor has more tricks up their sleeve. Enter the fentanyl patch. Suddenly you're living in a science fiction story, a clear sticker placed on your skin, promising to release relief slowly, discreetly, and with the faint risk of being mistaken for a nicotine patch. Your family looks at you with the reverence usually reserved for space shuttle pilots or people who operate heavy machinery. Be careful with those, everyone says, as if you might accidentally solve calculus or astral project into another dimension. Still, sometimes the doctor takes a left turn into the territory of non-narcotic options. This is where things get truly mysterious. You're handed pamphlets about physical therapy, Tien's units, mindfulness meditation, and a long lecture about anti-inflammatories. There's a brief flirtation with acupuncture, and if your doctor is feeling especially holistic, suggestions to try yoga or cut out gluten. You smile politely, mentally calculating how many downward dogs it would take to replace one tablet of Vicodin. Meanwhile, each new option comes with its own ritual. You stand in line at the pharmacy, collecting warnings and signature forms. The pharmacist's eyebrow now arches so high it's in danger of permanent altitude sickness. You start keeping a spreadsheet of side effects: constipation, dizziness, dry mouth, insomnia. Each pill is like a new contestant on America's Next Top Side Effect. You wonder if you should start a fantasy league. At home, the medicine cabinet becomes a museum of modern pharmacology. Orange bottles with childproof caps jostle for space with heating pads, compression sleeves, and a steadily growing collection of informational leaflets you swear you'll read someday. The dog's anxiety medication still lives in the corner, just to keep things competitive. As the drugs get stronger, so do the disclaimers. The doctor's office starts checking in more often. The word dependence hangs in the air, unspoken but heavy. You hear stories on the news about celebrities, politicians, neighbours, people whose stronger options led them to places no amount of mindfulness could fix. You begin to suspect that the real medical breakthrough would be a pill for anxiety about your medication. And yet, the merry-go-round continues. If one prescription doesn't work, there's always another. The names change, the labels get longer, and your list of current medications grows until you need a note card at every appointment. You start bringing your own pen to fill out forms, just to save time. Punchline. In the end, the only thing moving faster than your tolerance is the wheel of new prescriptions. Modern pain management. It's less a cure, more a high-stakes round of musical chairs, where you just hope there's always another seat, and that nobody ever turns off the music. Behind every perfect lawn and holiday wreath, there's a story. The neighbour's mailbox is overflowing with insurance letters, and the kid next door is suddenly just really tired. The epidemic hides in plain sight, as polite as ever. Suburbia has always had its secrets. The grass is trimmed, the driveways power-washed, and the porch pumpkins are swapped out for twinkling lights before the last leaf even hits the ground. Every family has its quirks. The mailbox that only gets checked once a week, the car that never leaves the driveway, the mysterious Amazon packages that arrive at midnight. But beneath the surface of every tidy cul-de-sac is a silent negotiation, a careful choreography to keep up appearances while quietly, desperately holding things together. You notice it first in the small things. The neighbour who once waved from the porch now barely makes eye contact. You see their trash cans lined up with a precision that borders on obsessive, but inside the bins are bottles, amber, prescription vials, labels torn off, rattling in the early morning like wind chimes. The family with the perfectly edged lawn. They're arguing behind closed doors, their voices muffled by insulation and a healthy dose of Midwestern politeness. The signs are everywhere, if you know where to look. Insurance letters pile up on the kitchen counter, unopened and multiplying like rabbits. The dog walker starts doing double shifts, and you notice more strollers at the park pushed by grandparents instead of parents. Neighbourhood gossip, once limited to whose holiday decorations went up too early, now drifts towards speculation. Did you hear about the Hendersons? She'd been to the pharmacy 4 times this month. I saw the EMTs at the Wilsons' house last week. Must have been another fall. Kids, meanwhile, have grown suspiciously quiet. The once rowdy bike gang now spends afternoons indoors, just tired or not feeling up to it. The high school throws a parent info night, but nobody mentions what everyone is really worried about. It's easier to talk about SAT scores and soccer tryouts than pills, pain, and the soft panic that comes from wondering who might be next. Doctors' offices are busier, but not in ways anyone advertises. The waiting room is filled with people who avoid each other's gaze, each clutching a folder of test results and a list of symptoms that never quite match up. Pharmacists know everyone by name, but nobody uses the drive-through anymore. Too public, too risky. Instead, prescriptions are picked up in person, behind a fortress of plexiglass, the transaction quick, the goodbye awkward. Even social media has learned to keep quiet. No one posts about new prescriptions or appointments, but everyone knows who's gone on leave or taking a little break to focus on self-care. Behind the vacation photos are tired eyes, careful captions, and the universal hope that if you just crop the picture tightly enough, no one will notice what's missing. You start to realize that in Suburbia, the real epidemic isn't just in the pill bottles. It's in the silences, the nods, the awkward laughs when someone brings up stress. It's in the casserole dropped off on a Tuesday night, the extra carpool spot, the text that says, "Let me know if you need anything." No one talks about the thing itself, just the shape it leaves behind, the way the neighbourhood quietly adjusts, filling in the gaps with casseroles, favours and polite fiction. Punchline. And so, as another season rolls through the neighbourhood, pumpkins to wreaths, lawn flamingos to snowmen, the secrets remain, carefully hidden in plain sight. Because in Suburbia, the grass is always greener, the mailbox is always full, and if anyone asks, we're all just a little tired these days, and that's all anyone really wants to know. Suddenly the news can't stop talking about America's opioid crisis. Documentaries air at 2 a.m. You watch, munching popcorn, and wonder if they filmed in your neighbourhood. It begins as a ripple, one sombre news anchor with perfect hair and a grave tone, introducing a special investigation. The words epidemic and crisis crawl across the screen, paired with stock footage of anonymous hands opening orange pill bottles in slow motion. Next, the local news joins in, offering tips for talking to your teens between traffic reports and a segment about lost puppies. You hear the words painkillers and overdose more often than weather or sports, and somewhere, someone is organising a town hall meeting where attendance will be counted in equal parts concern and mild curiosity. You're pretty sure you've seen your own pharmacy's drive-through in one of the B-roll shots. Is that the corner with the fake palm tree and the sale on bandages sign? You feel a momentary flush of local pride quickly replaced by paranoia. Should you start wearing sunglasses and a wig to pick up your refills? The panic moves up the chain. National news outlets run nightly. Specials with names like Poison in the Medicine Cabinet and A Nation in Pain. They pan across neatly manicured neighborhoods, solemnly intoning that no community is immune. You find yourself studying the background of every clip, searching for familiar mailboxes or the slightly crooked wreath on Mrs. Callahan's door. Your snack bowl is half empty before you realize you're stress-eating over a crisis you already live in. Soon, the streaming platforms jump in. Documentaries pop up faster than you can update your parental controls. There are in-depth interviews with people who look suspiciously like your cousin's friend's roommate, all set to mournful piano music and moody drone shots of empty playgrounds. They promise the inside story, but the more you watch, the more you suspect that the real inside story is how they convinced your town's pizza shop to let them film during lunch rush. The media, in their frenzy, start naming culprits: pharmaceutical companies, overworked doctors, unscrupulous clinics, pill mill pharmacies, helicopter parents, and sometimes just the culture. Talk shows debate who's really at fault, inviting experts with impressive titles and tragic personal stories. Someone invents a graphic, a slowly rising chart with ominous red lines, just to make sure you're paying attention. You're suddenly an expert in policy reform, addiction statistics, and the difference between hydrocodone and oxycodone. The family group chat blows up with links to articles and long, slightly panicked messages from relatives who never once called to ask how you were actually doing. At neighborhood gatherings, people lower their voices and exchange headlines instead of recipes. In all the noise, the human element gets blurry. It's easier to talk about America's problem than to ask your neighbor if they're okay, or to mention your own refill routine. You see interviews with anonymous local residents, silhouetted, voices altered, describing experiences that sound oddly familiar. For a fleeting moment, you consider reaching out, but then another special report comes on, and you get distracted by a particularly dramatic reenactment involving a medicine cabinet and a slow pan of family photos. Punchline: so you finish your popcorn, turn off the TV, and promise yourself you'll be more careful, more aware, more something. Outside, the neighborhood's quiet, bathed in the soft glow of porch lights. You realize that while the cameras have moved on, the story is still here, living quietly in every cabinet, every living room, and every sleepy suburb, whether Netflix finds it or not. Checking into rehab is the modern equivalent of a spa day, minus the cucumber water. You meet other people with the same story. A little pain, a little relief, then a whole lot of consequences. Everyone swears this time will be different. The place itself tries to disguise the reality with throw pillows, motivational posters, and a faint scent of lemon disinfectant. They call it a retreat, as if you're here for yoga and organic smoothies instead of withdrawal symptoms and endless group therapy. You check in at a front desk that looks suspiciously like the one at your old dentist's office. Instead of free toothbrushes, you get a binder full of resources and a plastic bracelet with your name on it, just in case you forget why you're here. You hand over your phone and anything sharper than a rubber spatula. Someone offers you herbal tea, and you realize the rumors are true. Rehab really is just like summer camp, only with more adult supervision and fewer marshmallows. Your roommate introduces herself with a sigh and a knowing look. "What are you here for?" she asks, as if you're both at a convention for people who once had slightly too much fun at the buffet table. Orientation involves a whirlwind of names and faces, counsellors with tragic backstories, fellow guests with degrees in creative storytelling, and a chef who takes pride in making kale edible. You quickly learn that the first rule of rehab is everyone's pain is valid and everyone's sense of humour is dark. What's your drug of choice? Becomes small talk, as casual as discussing the weather. Vicodin, you say, and half the group nods in instant recognition, while the other half offers suggestions on which flavour of recovery program pairs best with withdrawal-induced insomnia. Therapy sessions are equal parts confession and stand-up comedy. The group sits in a circle of overstuffed armchairs, sharing tales of injury, optimism and denial. "I just needed something to take the edge off my knee surgery," says one. "I never thought I'd end up here," says another. Someone cracks a joke about the snack table. There's always a snack table, and for a moment everyone laughs like this is the most normal thing in the world. But there are quiet moments too. At night, you lie in a narrow bed under scratchy sheets, staring at the ceiling and counting the hours until morning. The cravings come and go like old acquaintances who can't decide if they're welcome. You make promises to yourself, then break them before breakfast. You tell yourself this is temporary, that you'll emerge transformed and ready to start fresh, maybe even switch to chamomile tea for good measure. Eventually the days blur together. Group therapy, journaling, supervised walks, a class on healthy coping skills led by a counsellor who once appeared on a late-night talk show. The stories you hear are almost comforting in their predictability. A little pain, a little relief, then a slow slide into something that feels a lot like helplessness. Everyone claims this time will be different, and you nod, partly because you want to believe it and partly because the counsellor is watching. Release day comes with a mixture of relief and dread. You're sent home with a folder of tips, a list of support groups, and more phone numbers than you'll ever call. There's a gentle warning about relapse, a word spoken quietly, like it might break if said too loud. You vow to avoid old routines, to make new friends, to never ever set foot in that particular pharmacy again. Punchline. And yet, as you walk through your front door, the world feels exactly the same, except you, clutching a welcome home casserole and hoping that this time, when the revolving door spins, you're not the one pushing from the inside. Lawyers descend on pharmaceutical companies like seagulls on a dropped hot dog. There are class actions, settlements, and a parade of experts. You think about suing your own back, but it turns out you can't serve legal papers to your lumbar spine. It all begins with the late-night commercials. Have you or a loved one been prescribed Vicodin, oxycodone, or any other opioid medication between the years you can't remember and now? The booming voice asks as images of sad families and ominous pill bottles float by. You may be entitled to compensation. The phone number flashes across the screen, and for a brief moment you wonder if dialing it will lead to justice, or just a subscription to another magazine you don't need. The newspapers are filled with headlines about lawsuits, settlements, and breaking the cycle. There's a rotating cast of experts on every channel. Doctors, ethicists, former pharmaceutical executives, and at least one guy who claims he can trace all his troubles to that one prescription. Suddenly, everyone's a detective, and the mystery is how so many people got caught in a web of painkillers, promises and plausible deniability. At the centre of it all are the pharmaceutical companies, those faceless conglomerates that sponsored your doctor's pens, your pharmacist's mug, and, if you're lucky, at least one lunch at the clinic. Now their executives are sitting under the fluorescent lights of congressional hearings, looking like kids who've just been caught cheating at Monopoly. The lawyers, sleek and hungry, pounce on every misstep. Class action suits stack up faster than old prescriptions. Each week brings news of a new record-breaking settlement, and you wonder if the payout includes a coupon for over-the-counter pain relief. Not to be outdone, doctors and pharmacists are called to the witness stand. The defense is always the same. We were just following the guidelines. The guidelines, meanwhile, are busy pointing fingers in every direction. The insurance companies join in, claiming they only approved what was medically necessary. In the background, government agencies clarify that they were monitoring the situation all along, just very, very quietly. If you listen closely, you can hear the sound of blame ricocheting through the system. The patients blame the doctors blame the drug companies blame regulators, and the regulators blame systemic issues, which is a polite way of saying ask someone else. This circle is complete, and nobody leaves without a lawyer's business card and a lingering sense of existential confusion. The lawsuits spill into daily life. Your mailbox is stuffed with important notices about potential settlements. Neighborhood Facebook groups explode with speculation. Did you get the check? How much did you get? Is it taxable? At least one cousin claims he's getting a new hot tub, and another insists she's using her windfall to finally install a storm door. You secretly hope for enough to cover the cost of your latest copay, but you're prepared to settle for a commemorative fridge magnet. Through it all, the real pain, the kind that started all this, lingers quietly in the background. The lawsuits promise closure, but what you mostly get is paperwork. There's a hotline for questions, but the hold music is just an instrumental version of I Will Survive. You fantasize about dragging your lumbar spine into small claims court, but even Judge Judy would probably just sigh and suggest more physical therapy. Punchline. So as the lawyers squabble over settlements and pharmaceutical giants issue carefully worded apologies, you nurse your aches with heating pads and daydream about a world where someone, anyone, could actually be held accountable, especially if it meant fewer forms to fill out, and maybe a little less pain in your back, your mailbox, and your soul. Society swings hard the other way. Doctors stop prescribing anything stronger than an aspirin. The same people who once handed out Vicodin at Halloween now lecture you on meditation and turmeric tea. 1 minute you're living in a world where every ache merits its own prescription. The next, you're sitting in the doctor's office holding a sticky note with rest, ice, Tylenol scrawled across it like a bad recipe. The great pain pill. Reckoning has arrived, and suddenly the medicine cabinet that once rivaled a CVS is as barren as a diet snack aisle after New Year's. You look around and realize the entire tone of medicine has shifted. Where pain was once the fifth vital sign, it's now a test of moral character. The more you can bear, the stronger you are. Power through, says your dentist, who not so long ago handed you Vicodin for a routine cleaning. Try ginger root, suggests your yoga teacher, who has recently become suspiciously well-versed in ancient remedies and side hustles in herbal supplements. At the pharmacy, the shelves are stocked with every possible variation of acetaminophen, fast-acting, extra-strength, super gentle for kids. The pharmacist offers a polite but unwavering, "No, sorry, we can't refill that prescription." There's a new poster on the wall about the dangers of opioids, right next to a flyer for a mindfulness workshop, led by someone who once taught jazzercise in the community centre basement. The cultural script has flipped. Old friends swap turmeric latte recipes instead of painkiller recommendations. There's a run on essential oils, hot water bottles, and anything with the word holistic in the title. The only thing that isn't in short supply is unsolicited advice. My cousin gave up gluten and hasn't had a headache since 2017. Just breathe through the pain. Have you tried knitting? Suddenly everyone's a wellness guru, and you're starting to suspect the line between natural and nonsense is even thinner than your patients. Doctors, once the primary source of pain relief, are now apologetic gatekeepers. We're really trying to avoid anything habit-forming, your physician explains, handing you a glossy brochure titled Living with Mild Discomfort. The advice is all about resilience and embracing the challenge. You're told to sleep more, hydrate more, and stop eating anything you can't pronounce. Pain is a signal from your body, says your new therapist, not a problem to solve. You consider sending your body a polite request to lower the volume. The ripple effects hit the community hard. The neighborhood book club discusses the opioid era with the seriousness of a true crime podcast. Parents at the PTA swap cold compress tips instead of allergy meds. Even your dog's vet suggests doggy yoga for arthritis. You either leftover bottle of Vicodin in the cabinet like it's a relic from another lifetime, something you'll eventually sell on eBay under the category vintage despair. The cultural pendulum, having swung from indulgence to abstinence, leaves you somewhere in the middle, caught between nostalgia for quick relief and guilt for wanting it. Everyone is more cautious, more careful, and let's face it, more uncomfortable than ever. You start to miss the days when your biggest health concern was running out of prescription pads, not being shamed for buying the extra strength bottle of Tylenol. Punchline. So the next time you wince getting out of bed and someone tells you to just take a Tylenol, you smile, nod, and silently promise yourself a double dose of sarcasm and a heating pad. After all, relief may come and go, but advice like turmeric tea is always in unlimited supply. Years later, you find an old faded bottle at the back of your cabinet. The label is worn off, but the lesson is clear. The miracle cure became a cautionary tale. You close the cabinet, a little wiser, a little ashere, but determined to stick with ibuprofen for now. The discovery happens on an ordinary Saturday, during a spring cleaning blitz that has you questioning every purchase made since the Bush administration. You're knee-deep in expired sunscreen, half-used cold medicines, and a cough syrup so ancient it predates your last home renovation. And there it is, your personal time capsule, tucked behind a box of adhesive bandages and the travel-size floss nobody in history has ever finished. You hold the bottle in your hand, turning it over like an artifact from another era. The cap sticks, the safety seal long gone, the print faded from years of shifting humidity and indifference. You squint, trying to remember why you stopped using it. Was it after that third refill? Was it the doctor's gentle warning, or the slightly raised eyebrow of the pharmacist? Or maybe it was the morning you realized you couldn't recall the last day you'd gone without. There's a strange nostalgia attached to this relic. For a brief, shimmering moment, Vicodin was the answer to every minor tragedy. A sore back after moving the couch, a headache after arguing with the Wi-Fi router, a rough morning after one too many attempts at reliving your youth. You remember the relief, the euphoria of a world dulled at the edges, the confidence that whatever hurt could be made manageable, if only for a few hours at a time. But mixed in with the memories is the quiet knowledge of what came next, the creeping tolerance, the elaborate rituals, counting pills, scheduling refills, stashing bottles in purses, cars, desk drawers, the jokes that turned into patterns, the family, conversations you shrugged off as overreactions, the promises you made to yourself to cut back, to stop, to just get through this week. Pain that was never quite cured, only hidden, waiting patiently for the next window of vulnerability. You think of all the stories in the news, the specials, the documentaries, the sobering statistics that began to feel uncomfortably familiar. The neighborhood whispers, the PTA meetings, the polite nods in the waiting room, the headlines that once seemed like someone else's problem until they weren't. You realize that the bottle in your hand is a little piece of history, a caution sign for anyone inclined to reach for a quick fix. You're older now, not just in years, but in experience. Your aches are a little more honest, your remedies a little less dramatic. You keep ibuprofen nearby, respect the power of an ice pack, and occasionally indulge in an afternoon nap that feels almost rebellious. You know the temptation of shortcuts, the lure of solutions in a bottle, but you also know the value of patience, of honesty, of letting a pain simply be a part of living. Sometimes you wonder what you'll tell the next generation. Maybe you'll show them the faded bottle, a relic of an era when answers came in child-proof caps and caution arrived late. You'll tell them to listen, to ask questions, to be careful with what promises relief, and to save a little space in the medicine cabinet, not for miracles, but for the things that actually heal. Punchline. So you set the old bottle aside, maybe for the next round of spring cleaning, maybe as a reminder, maybe just to keep ibuprofen company. The miracle cure is history now, but the lesson lingers. Sometimes the hardest pill to swallow is the one that reminds you just how far you've come and just how carefully you want to move forward from here. Eventually the noise fades. People heal, communities recover, and the medicine cabinet gets smaller. You discover new ways to deal with pain, exercise, therapy, or just learning to live with a little discomfort. Life goes on, a little slower, but a lot more mindful. It doesn't happen all at once. The transition from chaos to calm is so gradual, it's almost unnoticeable, like the seasons changing, or your favourite jeans slowly becoming vintage. The headlines move on to the next crisis. The pharmacy lines grow shorter, and the old scripts, once so urgently filled, start to collect dust behind the cough drops and allergy meds. You notice the difference first in the little things. Maybe it's the way you stretch in the morning, letting the ache in your back settle instead of reaching automatically for a bottle. Maybe it's the friendly suggestion from a neighbour, "Have you tried the new yoga studio?" Or the casual mention of therapy in line at the grocery store, no longer whispered like a state secret. The old stigma melts just a bit, replaced by a shared understanding that everyone's got something they're dealing with, and nobody's keeping score anymore. Your medicine cabinet becomes a symbol of change. Out go the half-empty bottles with the mysterious expiration dates, in come heating pads, foam rollers, Epsom salts, and that tube of muscle rub that smells like menthol and optimism. You find yourself Googling gentle stretches for lower back pain and best apps for guided meditation, replacing quick fixes with slow routines. It's not a cure, but it's a start. Life, it turns out, can be lived at half speed and still be pretty good. You give yourself permission to rest, to say no, to admit when something hurts. You learn to negotiate with your body. "I'll walk an extra block if you promise not to seize up on the stairs." There's comfort in the familiar twinges, a sense that pain is not your enemy, but a weather report. Sometimes stormy, sometimes clear, always changing. Communities too find their footing again. The PTA meetings stop being pharmaceutical swap meets and start featuring guest speakers on mindfulness and resilience. The local gym fills up slowly, with people who once would have sworn off exercise for life. Coffee shops buzz with conversations about therapy and coping strategies, as ordinary as talking about the weather. Even the dog seems to pick up on the new mood, wagging his tail with less urgency, content to nap through the afternoon instead of pacing the living room like a canine sentry. You realize that recovery is less about triumph and more about adjustment. There's no dramatic finish line, no slow-motion montage set to inspirational music. It's small victories, a day without pain, an evening spent reading instead of counting pills, a walk around the block with a friend. It's learning to laugh at yourself, to to accept help when you need it, to forgive your body for its quirks and its limitations. There are still rough days, moments when you miss the simplicity of the old solutions. But you know now that quick fixes come with long receipts. You look around at your life, a little messier, a little quieter, but infinitely more real. The miracle cure, it turns out, was never in the bottle. It was in the stubborn, hopeful, sometimes ridiculous human ability to keep moving forward, no matter what. Punchline. So you close the medicine cabinet, take a deep breath, and head into the next day, grateful for the chance to move a little slower, to live a little wiser, and to know that healing isn't about perfection, but about finding peace with your own imperfect, resilient self. You're driving through your neighborhood, past familiar houses and old memories. The story of Vicodin is in the rear view, visible, but not all-consuming. You survived the era of pain pills, and now, at last, you can finally sleep. The road is quiet at this hour, lit by the soft glow of porch lights and the occasional flicker from a late-night television set. The world feels hushed, suspended between yesterday and tomorrow, as your car rolls. Along you catch glimpses of front yards where kids once played tag, garages where you threw out your back, and driveways that witnessed everything from holiday parades to late-night ambulance visits. Each turn brings a new memory, a neighbour waving from the mailbox, the family down the block who always put up Halloween decorations a month too early, the corner house where you once borrowed a ladder and nearly started your own medical file. You pass the pharmacy, now closed for the night, neon sign blinking a little slower than usual. For a long time, that place was the axis of your existence, where relief was promised, pills were counted, and the raised eyebrow of the pharmacist could make or break your day. Now it's just another stop along the route, part of the scenery rather than the destination. As you drive, your mind drifts to the ups and downs, the routines that once defined your life, the frantic search for refills, the delicate art of negotiating with doctors, the secret economy of pill swaps and favours. You remember the countless strategies you devised, hiding pills in sock drawers, timing doses with family gatherings, inventing creative injuries to get just one more bottle. You can almost laugh at the absurdity, the way life seemed to shrink to the size of an orange prescription vial. But there's gratitude here too. Gratitude for the slow, stumbling road back to something that resembles normalcy. For the day you finally threw away the last expired bottle. For the night you slept soundly without worrying if you'd have enough just in case. For the friends who brought casseroles. For the family who worried even when you told them not to. For the dog who stayed by your side when you felt like giving up. You survived, not because the road was easy, but because you kept going, even when every muscle in your body begged you to stop. You roll down the window, letting in a breeze that smells faintly of cut grass and distant barbecues. You realize that the real legacy isn't what you lost to pain or pills or even regret. It's what you learned to hold on to. Resilience, patience, the quiet courage to face the day with a little less fear. You know your story isn't unique. Somewhere, behind those darkened windows, someone else is closing their own medicine cabinet, tossing their own ghosts in the trash. At a stop sign, you pause, watching as the headlights stretch down the empty street. The houses seem softer, more forgiving, wrapped in the gentle privacy of night. The neighborhood has changed, and so have you. You've traded the frantic pace of relief for the steady rhythm of acceptance. The memories remain, but they're just that, memories. No longer weights around your neck, but milestones along the journey. As you pull into your driveway, You feel the day slipping away, replaced by the soft promise of rest. You turn off the engine and sit for a moment, letting the silence settle in. You survived the era of pain pills and you've come out the other side, not unchanged, but stronger, wiser, and at last ready to close your eyes. Punchline. So tonight, as you settle into bed and the world grows quiet, let the past drift gently into the distance. The story of Vicodin is in the rear view now, always there, but fading as you finally drift towards sleep, surrounded by the simple comfort of having made it through. You're 8 years old, clutching your elbow after a tragic playground incident involving dodgeball, concrete, and poor life choices. The school nurse, armed with nothing but ice packs, band-aids, and rumour has it, a secret stash of mommy's medicine, gives you a lecture about safety. But in the staff lounge, the grown-ups joke that every ailment, from skinned knees to existential dread, can be solved with half a Vicodin and a juice box. Welcome to American Elementary Healthcare, 1992 edition. The nurse's office is a tiny, overbright room sandwiched between the janitor's closet and the world's loudest radiator. You're not sure if the decor is meant to be comforting or just a way to distract you from the mystery stains on the linoleum. Posters of smiling cartoon teeth line the walls, though the actual teeth you're worried about are still somewhere on the blacktop. The air is thick with the scent of antiseptic, grape bubble gum, and something only children can detect, a faint whiff of existential dread. The nurse herself is a legend. She has seen it all. Nosebleeds, head lice, dramatic fainting fits, the kid who ate 4 glue sticks in one sitting. She greets you with a look that says, "I have a stack of paperwork and 0 patience for drama." In her top drawer, an endless supply of bandages, a roll of gauze older than you, and, according to the older kids, a tiny bottle of pills that fix anything. The legend of the magical Vicodin drawer grows with every retelling, fueled by bored 5th graders and teachers who know just how long the nurse's day can be. You're here for the ritual, ice pack, lecture, sign-out sheet. The nurse presses a cold compress to your throbbing elbow, instructing you to hold it tight and think about your choices. She offers a juice box, orange, never grape, and, if you're really lucky, a sticker that says "I survived the playground." Behind her, the secret drawer glows with mythic power. You're convinced that inside is a solution for everything: broken bones, broken hearts, and the urge to fake a stomachache before spelling tests. What the kids don't see is the other side of the door. In the staff lounge, the teachers gather around a pot of burnt coffee, swapping stories about playground heroics and hallway disasters. Someone jokes that the only thing keeping the whole school running is the nurse's secret medicine cabinet. Half for the kids, half for the teachers on report card day. If only, says the gym teacher, rubbing his shoulder, she could hand out Vicodin with the morning announcements. Back in the nurse's office, the magic is less about actual pills and more about the gentle lie that everything will be okay. The nurse tapes your elbow, offers a second juice box, and sends you back to class with instructions to take it easy. For the next hour, you milk your injury for all it's worth, earning sympathy from friends and a pass on multiplication homework. Years later, you look back and realize the magic drawer was mostly filled with paperwork and stern reminders to call home if things get worse. The school nurse was the calm in the storm, equal parts triage nurse, therapist, and warden of the playground wounded. The teacher's jokes about mummy's medicine were just a coping strategy for adults who had to wrangle 100 children with nothing but popsicle sticks and hope. Punchline. So the next time life throws you to the concrete, remember the nurse's office, where a juice box, a sticker, and a little old-fashioned myth-making could cure almost anything, and where the real secret was learning to get back up and limp bravely back to class, one band-aid at a time. Late-night TV in the 1990s is a fever dream of miracle gadgets, celebrity workout tapes, and, naturally, the friendly voiceover promising fast, effective pain relief. You're lying awake, wondering if Vicodin could make you as energetic as those people in the infomercials, or at least get you through a weekend of assembling IKEA furniture. Somewhere between a juicer and a chia pet, the idea sinks in. Maybe pain isn't something to tolerate, it's something to buy your way out of. Operators are standing by. The infomercial landscape is its own surreal wonderland. The clock glows 2:14 a.m. in green plastic digits, and you're propped up by two questionable pillows, remote in hand. First up is a smiling couple with perfect teeth slicing tomatoes with a knife that could cut through a shoe, for only 3 easy payments of $19.95. But before you can pick up the phone, the screen shifts. Here comes a parade of soothing voices and gentle piano music, promising a miracle, a world without pain, delivered discreetly to your door. On TV, pain is just another household annoyance, like mildew or a cluttered closet. "Are you tired of waking up stiff, sore and cranky?" the host asks, as a montage of actors in mom jeans pretend to grimace while rising from armchairs. What if there was a better way? The answer, inevitably, is some miracle product, an ergonomic pillow, a vibrating belt, a spray that promises to soothe away discomfort at the source, or, best of all, a little white pill that melts your problems away. You watch, captivated and half awake, as real people, not actors, describe how a single pill gave them back their swing dancing, their gardening, their will to reorganize the garage at 3 a.m. There's always a testimonial from someone who looks suspiciously like your neighbor. Before, I could barely walk to the mailbox. Now I'm hiking Machu Picchu. The promise is always the same: relief, energy, a pain-free existence just one phone call away. The graphics are dazzling. Glowing spines, animated nerves, a pill travelling through your body like a tiny superhero. It's medical science by way of Saturday morning cartoons. You marvel at the list of side effects that scrolls by in fine print, usually while the host encourages you to act now. If you call in the next 10 minutes, you'll receive not just 1, but 2 bottles, plus a mystery bonus gift that is almost definitely a pill organizer shaped like a smiling sun. As you watch, the line between medicine and merchandise blurs. The host assures you that millions of satisfied customers can't be wrong. You're tempted, not just by the promise of pain relief, but by the fantasy of joining a club of people who bounce out of bed, dance through errands, and never mutter curses while trying to open a child-proof cap. You wonder if Vicodin counts as seen on TV, or if it's just the original limited time offer that never really ended. You never actually call, maybe out of skepticism, maybe because the phone is all the way across the room, or maybe because you're still paying off that juicer from 1995. But the seed is planted. The belief that pain is something you shouldn't have to live with, something you can order away in the middle of the night, along with a set of steak knives and a promise of a brighter tomorrow. Punchline. So you turn off the TV, shuffle off to bed, and promise yourself that tomorrow you'll be more energetic, maybe after a good night's sleep, maybe after a new gadget, or maybe, just maybe, after finally figuring out how to assemble that IKEA bookshelf without spraining something. Operators are still standing by just in case. It's Thanksgiving. Aunt Linda has a headache, Grandpa's knee acts up, and your cousin is stress-eating cranberry sauce. The answer? A communal rummage through the family's collection of half-empty prescription bottles. Everyone pretends it's normal to swap muscle relaxants like trading cards. The turkey's dry, but at least nobody feels a thing. The holidays have a way of making every ache and pain front and centre, as if your body waits for the scent of roasting turkey and burnt dinner rolls before deciding to protest. Every generation brings their own medicine cabinet in a travel bag. There's the aunt with the week's worth of pill organisers, the uncle with a jacket full of aspirin, and at least one cousin with a purse that sounds like a maraca every time she moves. The family pill pile begins to materialise on the corner of the kitchen counter, right next to the gravy boat and the mysterious salad nobody actually eats. Someone starts the ritual by asking, "Does anyone have anything for heartburn?" This is the starter's pistol. Bottles begin to appear, pink, orange, white, childproof caps scattered like confetti. Your mother offers a prescription antacid that expired during the Obama administration. Dad has leftover painkillers from the carpal tunnel days. The mood is part science fair, part black market bazaar. "I've got something stronger," someone whispers, waving a tiny bottle like a prize at a carnival. There's no shame in this exchange. In fact, it's practically a holiday tradition, like overcooked stuffing and competitive board games. Grandpa accepts a muscle relaxant from Aunt Linda with a solemn nod, promising to split his blood pressure pills if anyone's numbers spike during dessert. Your cousin, overwhelmed by the logistics of mashed potato distribution, offers half a sleep aid to take the edge off before dinner is even served. The children, blissfully unaware, build towers out of pill bottles, the sound of childproof caps clicking like distant holiday bells. The family dog circles hopefully, sensing that a dropped pill is more likely than a piece of turkey. Dinner is a symphony of complaints and remedies. "These chairs are murder on my back," says Uncle Pete, reaching for the topical cream someone brought just in case. Aunt Linda's headache migrates to her sinuses, and the pile on the table grows to include allergy tablets and mystery nasal sprays. Every side effect gets its own side dish. Drowsiness with a side of gravy, dry mouth with a helping of green beans. There's a special kind of unity in this exchange. No one is left behind, and everyone is a pharmacist for the day. After dinner, the living room resembles a post-apocalyptic clinic. People recline in every available armchair, eyelids heavy, watching the game through a medicated haze. Grandpa's knee no longer hurts. Aunt Linda's headache is a distant memory, and your cousin has switched from cranberry sauce to quietly napping on the shag rug. Someone asks if there's anything for indigestion, and the cycle begins anew. No one talks about the origins of all these bottles, old injuries, past surgeries, the years when doctors prescribed painkillers like party favours. The holidays make it easy to pretend this is normal, that every family has an informal pharmacy ready to deploy at a moment's notice. Maybe they do. Maybe this is just what happens when you gather people, food, and history in a room with too much nostalgia and not enough seating. Punchline. So as the evening winds down and you gather up your share of the leftovers and maybe a few unclaimed tablets, you realize the real tradition isn't just the food or the family stories, it's the annual pill swap, where everyone leaves feeling just a little bit better, or at least a little less sore, until next year rolls around and the family pill pile returns right on schedule. The suburban pharmaceutical story isn't just about soccer mums with hidden stashes. Suddenly, Dad is grumbling about his old football injury and popping pills like Tic Tacs before mowing the lawn. You start to wonder, does everyone in this house have a medical degree, or are we all just improvising? The gender gap in pain management, it turns out, is just as confused as the family's insurance policy. For years, the stereotype held steady. Mum with her little helper, a bottle of something tucked discreetly between the vitamins and the grocery lists. Commercials painted her as a perky, stressed-out multitasker, taking the edge off so she could bake cupcakes and organize carpool without losing her mind. But as the decades roll on, the script flips. Dad, who once insisted pain was for the weak and walk it off was sound medical advice, now limps to the kitchen with the swagger of a retired pro athlete and the pill bottle of a part-time pharmacist. It starts quietly. One morning, Dad emerges from the garage clutching his lower back and muttering about that hit from 78. He lines up his medicine on the counter, muscle relaxants for before yard work, ibuprofen for after, and maybe a Vicodin just in case the mower acts up again. He studies the label with a look of seriousness normally reserved for the NFL draft. You watch as he pops a pill, stretches once, and heads outside with the confidence of a man who believes both in modern medicine and in his ability to ignore the warning on the label about operating heavy machinery. Meanwhile, Mom has gotten pragmatic. Gone are the days of secrecy. Now it's a kind of arms race. You know, these are from my root canal, she says, offering you an unlabeled bottle when you complain about a headache. You start to suspect she could run a small clinic out of her purse, provided anyone is willing to sign a release form written on the back of a grocery receipt. As the lines blur, the family medicine cabinet turns into a pharmaceutical co-op. Dad's pain is chronic and mysterious. Mum's is stress-related. The dog, not to be left out, develops anxiety that seems to flare up around the time Grandpa visits or there's a thunderstorm in Nebraska. By Sunday, you're all comparing notes at breakfast. Which pill worked best? Which one didn't mix with orange juice? Who needs to try something new for that shoulder? The conversation gets philosophical. Are you supposed to take these with food? What happens if you take them with wine? Did the doctor say 2 a day or 2 per decade? The insurance paperwork is a comedy of errors, forms lost, refills denied, explanations of benefits that read like plot twists in a bad soap opera. You begin to appreciate the resilience of your ancestors, who survived headaches with only a cold compress and a prayer. You realize the whole household has become an amateur medical team, diagnosing, advising, prescribing, sometimes for each other, sometimes for themselves, and always with the confidence of people who just read 3 WebMD articles in a row. No one ever really talks about the risks, or how the occasional pill has become part of the daily routine. There's a silent understanding that pain, like housework or mowing the lawn, is a family affair, best managed with teamwork, stubbornness, and just a touch of denial. Punchline. So the next time Dad heads outside with a pill in one hand and the lawnmower handle in the other, you watch with a mix of pride, concern, and the lingering hope that maybe, just maybe, someone in the family will actually read the instructions before the next round of pharmaceutical roulette begins. Until then, the gender gap in pain relief stays as mysterious and unpredictable as the family's insurance deductible. It's 2010, and the local news is warning about the opioid crisis in your own home. Now, every household is issued a plastic lockbox that is, ironically, easier to break into than a bag of Halloween candy. You fumble with the combination, realize you've locked yourself out of your own prescription, and begin to reminisce fondly about the days when the only thing you hid from your kids was the remote. The panic sets in with the arrival of a glossy pamphlet from the county health department. "Lock up your medications," it cries, featuring illustrations of cartoon children reaching for ominously glowing pill bottles. You imagine little Timmy in a black ski mask, rappelling down the bathroom wall to raid the family stash. The TV anchors are all in agreement. Medicine cabinets are the new Wild West, and the only thing standing between your household and disaster is a 4-digit code that nobody can remember. Soon, a plastic lockbox appears in every home, sold at pharmacies, supermarkets, and PTA meetings. It promises security, peace of mind, and, if you believe the box, tamper-resistant protection for your loved ones. In practice, the lockbox is a cross between a lunch pail and a cheap safe, with a dial that sticks and a lid that closes with a suspiciously unconvincing click. The family gathers around to choose a code, your wedding anniversary, your childhood street address, the dog's birthday. Within a week, you've forgotten it entirely, scribbled it on a sticky note and promptly lost the note in the kitchen junk drawer. The ritual begins. You retrieve the lockbox, curse under your breath, and attempt to remember which direction the dial turns first. After 3 failed attempts, you squint at your reading glasses and give the box a frustrated shake, secretly hoping the pills will just fall out. Meanwhile, your teenager breezes by, rolling their eyes with the confidence of someone who knows all the family secrets and could probably pick the lock with a bobby pin if motivated. As time passes, the lockbox becomes less a safeguard and more a symbol of suburban anxiety. You find yourself strategizing. Do you keep it in the bathroom for convenience, or hide it in the garage next to the Halloween decorations? One neighbour, never one to do things halfway, installs a biometric scanner on hers, convinced the neighbour kids have mastered advanced lockpicking. Another admits, over coffee, that she's given up entirely and now just keeps her prescriptions in her purse, reasoning that nobody will dare go in there after last year's incident with a melted lip balm and 3 open packs of gum. Doctors start to ask, are you storing your medication securely? At every appointment, their tone equal parts concern and legal liability. Pharmacies hand out stickers with emergency hotline numbers and reminders to keep out of reach of children, pets, and visiting relatives. Even the school nurse chimes in during career day, explaining the perils of loose pills and the importance of responsible adulting. You miss the days when childproof cap was the only challenge and the biggest household threat was the missing remote. Now you're locked in a battle of wits with a piece of plastic that claims to know what's best for your family. On more than one occasion, you've given up entirely and just taken a Tylenol out of sheer frustration, unable to face the lockbox gauntlet before your morning coffee. Punchline. So the next time the local news breathlessly warns you about medication security, you give your plastic lockbox a resigned pat and promise yourself, again, to write down the code somewhere you'll actually find it. Because when it comes to keeping your family safe, sometimes the real test isn't resisting temptation, it's outsmarting the technology designed to save you from yourself. So, as our story winds down and the last lights flicker behind suburban windows, let's take a quiet moment to reflect. Tonight, you've survived decades of medical optimism, dubious infomercials, and the soft rattle of prescription bottles hiding in every kitchen drawer. You've made it through endless waiting rooms, watched your neighbours swap pills like baseball cards, and weathered a storm of lawsuits, news specials, and enough side effects to fill a small print novella. You've seen how an innocent pain pill, marketed as hope in a bottle, slowly seeped into daily life, rearranging family dinners, doctor's visits, and even the contents of your glove compartment. You've watched a miracle cure morph into a cautionary tale, witnessed the slow-motion heartbreak of dependency, and found humour in the way we all pretended the medicine cabinet was just for headaches and bandages. But through it all, one thing stands out: the stubborn, absurd resilience of people determined to feel just a little bit better. It's easy to judge, looking back, easy to wonder why so many trusted the label, the doctor, or the friendly TV voice. But pain is relentless, Hope is persuasive, and sometimes we all just want relief. So tonight, as you nestle into your clean bed with your hot water bottle and maybe a heating pad you don't have to get from a pharmacy, take a second to thank your ancestors, those who navigated pain, comfort, and questionable advice long before you. Maybe whisper a quiet thank you to your body for carrying you through, and a gentle word of forgiveness for every desperate moment when the quick fix looked like the only way. Because history is rarely tidy. It's messy, a little ridiculous, and sometimes just trying to get through the day. If you're listening to this, you've survived another evening in the modern world, one with less shame, more knowledge, and hopefully fewer mysterious pills hiding behind the toothpaste. Rest easy tonight, knowing that you are part of a long, hilarious tradition of humans who want to feel good, stay hopeful, and sleep a little better, one absurd bedtime story at a time. Good night.